What started off as a normal Friday in Morocco ended up as a living nightmare, as a magnitude 6.8 earthquake on the Richter scale struck this North African country, with the epicenter being somewhere around 25 kilometers southwest of Marrakesh. At the time of making this video, more than 2,000 people had perished, with the number expected to rise. Why did this happen, though? And what could have been done to prevent it? We'll take a look at the infrastructure in the immediate aftermath and the science behind it all, so don't go anywhere and let's get on. Morocco's most devastating earthquake in decades has claimed the lives of over 2,000 people, laying waste to homes and infrastructure in the popular tourist city of Marrakesh. The powerful tremors reverberated through coastal cities like the capital Rabat, Casablanca, and Essaouira, causing extensive destruction and prompting frightened residents and visitors to seek refuge in the dark. In the mountainous village of Tafeghaghte, situated close to the quake's epicenter, not a single structure remained standing, highlighting the vulnerability of the traditional clay bricks used by the area's Berber inhabitants in the face of this rare seismic event. The epicenter of the 6.8 magnitude quake was in a mountainous area 72 kilometers southwest of the tourist city of Marrakesh, the U.S. Geological Survey reported, and was roughly 18.5 kilometers below the Earth's surface, according to the USGS, while Morocco's own seismic agency pegged the depth at 11 kilometers. It was a shallow earthquake, which, according to experts, is more dangerous as the closer you get to the surface, the greater the effect of the rupture. And according to reports, in the case of deeper earthquakes, the seismic waves have to travel a longer distance before reaching the surface. During this delay, the tremors lose energy to the surroundings. In the case of shallow quakes, the seismic waves are able to bring more energy to the surface and cause more damage, with eyewitnesses saying that the earthquake was strong and lasted for a longer period. In North Africa, earthquakes are relatively rare, as the seismic activity along the northern edge of the continent is notably low. Nonetheless, the recent earthquake marked an unprecedented event in the history of the North African kingdom, and an expert characterized it as the most significant seismic event in the region in over 120 years. Interestingly, the epicenter of the quake was not situated in the typically active area of Morocco, and given the unusual nature of seismic activity in the region, the population was ill-prepared for such an event. In the impoverished rural community, approximately 45 kilometers northeast of the quake's epicenter, residences were constructed using clay brick and cinder block. Unfortunately, many of these structures have now either collapsed or are deemed unsafe for habitation. The massive February earthquake in Turkey had horizontal movement because the country is shifting to the west, moving towards Greece, causing a horizontal sliding of the tectonic plates. But in Morocco, there was a convergence between Africa and Eurasia, or Iberia, the Spanish part, and overlapping faults. Philippe Vernon, a specialist in active tectonics at the University of Montpellier, told AFP. Moroccan authorities took the initiative this weekend to establish bilateral communications with specific countries, granting them authorization to dispatch expert search and rescue teams. Among them was Tunisia, which sent a team consisting of 50 paramedics and specialized personnel, along with search dogs, advanced thermal monitoring equipment, a drone for locating victims amidst debris, and a field hospital. Qatar also contributed by sending a rescue team and medical crews. Spain's Foreign Minister, José Manuel Albares, announced on Sunday that Madrid would extend support, including search and rescue teams and aid, following a formal request for assistance from Morocco. Albares emphasized that this act symbolizes Spanish solidarity and the deep bond of friendship shared between the people of Spain and Morocco. A Spanish military search and rescue contingent comprising 56 soldiers and 4 dogs was promptly dispatched to Marrakesh. Despite strained relations, neighboring Algeria demonstrated a gesture of goodwill by reopening its airspace, which had remained closed for 2 years, to allow humanitarian aid and injured individuals to be flown in. And several other nations, including Turkey, the U.S., and Taiwan, expressed readiness to deploy specialized search and rescue teams if called upon by Morocco. The French authorities also conveyed their readiness to assist, underscoring that they would await an official request for aid. President Emmanuel Macron affirmed France's willingness to provide assistance, emphasizing that once Moroccan authorities specified their needs, aid would be swiftly mobilized. The French Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Anne-Claire Legendre, emphasized the full engagement of the French embassy in Morocco and stressed that the Moroccan authorities are leading the response efforts, with an ongoing assessment of the situation underway. Experts have explained why, in their opinion, this earthquake had such devastating consequences. Professor Bill McGuire, Professor Emeritus of Geophysical and Climate Hazards at UCL, said, "Morocco is not the first place that comes to mind when people think of earthquakes, but they do happen. This one, however, is especially large for the region, the biggest in more than 120 years, and, as the climbing death toll indicates, deadly. The problem is that where destructive earthquakes are rare, buildings are simply not constructed robustly enough to cope with strong ground shaking, so many collapse, resulting in high casualties. I would expect the final death toll to climb into the thousands once more is known. As with any big quake, aftershocks are likely, which will lead to further casualties and hinder search and rescue." Professor Joanna Four Walker, Professor of Earthquake Geology and head of the UCL Institute of Disaster Risk Reduction, echoed McGuire's statement, saying that one of the main reasons this was so disastrous is because it happened at night with many people sleeping, thus not having enough time to react. Morocco lies in the north of the African plate, which has been converging obliquely with the European plate for millions of years. Movement associated with the plate boundary can cause damaging earthquakes. There have been other magnitude 6 earthquakes in Morocco in the past few hundred years, and Morocco has also experienced shaking from earthquakes with epicenters outside the country, including in Portugal. When an earthquake occurs at night, people can be particularly vulnerable, as getting out of their homes and navigating rubble and debris in the dark adds to the risk of injury and getting trapped. The early death toll figures are likely to increase significantly as early information is limited and rescue efforts are ongoing. Residents should be cautious returning to damaged buildings, as some damage may not be visible, and aftershocks of magnitude 5-6 should be expected. Large earthquakes can trigger other earthquakes along the same or neighboring faults, as stress transfer can bring other faults closer to failure. In an area already experiencing damage and reduced capacity for emergency services, vulnerability to aftershocks and triggered events can be higher than before the first event. We can only pray for Morocco and hope the death toll doesn't rise much more. This was a terrible disaster, and the entire world is with this country. Thank you for watching this video and leaving a comment below. We would especially like to hear if you were directly or indirectly affected by the quake, or if you had a friend or loved one in Morocco at the time. More on this disaster in our next video coming up soon after this one.